Hey everyone, thanks for checking this video out here. My name is Rob. I'd like to welcome you to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the new show, Superman and Lois, that debuted this past week on the CW. This is another one in a long line of entries of what they call the Arrowverse. Superman is something that's near and dear to my heart. Smallville in particular got me back into all of this superhero stuff way back in the early 2000s. So this to me was a very important one because Superman is my favorite. So did this show get it right? Did it get it wrong? Is there more do I need to see more before I can make up my mind on this? I'm going to let you guys know, and whether or not I have a recommendation on this one. All right, so first let's set up the plot. So this, if you've been watching the Arrowverse, you've seen all of this stuff play out between the Flash and Arrow and Supergirl and everything like that, where these characters originally made their debut. So, but you don't really need to have any of that information to jump right into this. I will say that this, as all of these CW shows, it begins with a narration by the character explaining their history. You know, we've seen Superman play out. Everybody knows Superman's story. He was born on Krypton, the planet exploded, raised by the Kents, and this is all done with a very quick narration done by the character. So this sets you up for his entire life thus far. Now this Superman show does change things up a bit in that we are skipping past all of that. We are skipping past Lois Lane learning who Clark Kent is. We are skipping past their romance and we find them and we find our characters square in a marriage that's been going on for probably at least 15 years. When this show first came out, I had no interest in seeing a Superman show that was built up around Superman and his teenaged, angsty kids. Did not interest me, but I knew I would check it out because I am a Superman fan after all, and I will see. The CW shows for me have been a bit of a mixed bag. I thought Arrow started out the gate okay, really hit the ground running in season 2, took a pretty big dip in a couple seasons to come back and really finish up mostly strong. Flash, for me, started off very, very strong and then has kind of went on to just hokiness that I still watch. They still bring the heart, but it just doesn't do it for me most of the time. Legends of Tomorrow, that's kind of just a goofy one. It started off kind of ish, and it's grown to have its cult following. Supergirl started off kind of weak for me, has really picked up in the last couple seasons, but I'm not so much on board with everything they try to do with that show. Batwoman, for me, Batwoman is hot garbage. There's very little redeeming value, and I haven't even checked it out since they picked up this new season with the recast character. Black Lightning, I have not seen it all, so I can't really judge on that one. I've only seen him in the crossover Crisis. The only reason I didn't check that one out is because it wasn't connected to the overall arcing plot between all of the other shows, and I just didn't want to invest the time. But I may go back and revisit that one because I've heard it's worth checking out. All right, so let's get right into Superman and Lois. So we find our characters dropped right into the heart of the city here. We get to learn about their life. Superman loses his job as Clark Kent, the reporter of the Daily Planet. And then shortly after, you find out that his mother has just died. He goes back to Smallville for the funeral, reconnects with Lana Lang, now married and with two children of her own. And we have an overarching mystery here of some stuff going on with nuclear power plants and somebody who knows Superman's identity is Kal-El. In the mix of this, we also have our 2 teenage sons, Jonathan and Jordan, who are twins. Maybe they have powers, maybe they don't. It doesn't seem like they do. One is a football star at the ripe age of 14, and the other one is kind of a social outcast with an anxiety disorder. The kids don't know that Clark Kent is really Superman. Dad has chosen to keep this from them to protect them from possibly letting out the secret. And also in the event that one has powers and one doesn't, to alienate one from the other, pun not intended. So we find out through this that one of the children does have powers. That would be Jordan, the social outcast who connects with Lana's daughter Sarah at the fire, where he accidentally starts a blaze with his heat vision. And, Jonathan, the tougher brother, steps in to protect his younger brother, even though he doesn't have any powers. Meanwhile, this is all tying in with some very beautiful shots of Superman coming face to face with the villain of this show, basically a guy who looks like he's straight out of Halo at this point. More astute viewers are already going to have their suspicions that this is none other than, spoiler alerts, a Lex Luthor. The only real piece that you may need to watch this show and understand what's happening from the Arrowverse in general is that there was a big crisis event, there was multiple Earths, and there was a convergence where some worlds made it and some worlds didn't. I don't think that that's really necessary knowledge because my wife watched it and really enjoyed the show without that real knowledge. I gave her a very brief overview, but she got the gist. So Superman, there's some very beautiful shots there of this version of Luthor stabbing our Clark Superman in the chest with some kryptonite, and as he descends to Earth, we find out that Jordan has powers as he shoots heat vision off and makes an explosion out of a bonfire. Superman's life is flashing before his eyes as Lois calls out to him, and he eventually comes out of his daze, flies off, cannot find this villain, and then goes and checks on his children to then comfort them. Come to the end of the episode, and now we have found that Clark and Lois have decided they want to stay in Smallville. They want to get back to a simpler life, take the remaining years that they have with their kids while they're still young, and make the most of it and reconnect as a family. All right, so let's start off with general storyline. So this, for me, felt very much like a more adult sequel series to Smallville. If you wanted to jump in with your favorite characters from Smallville and find out what happened to them about 15, 17 years after that show ended, this feels like a tonally grown-up version of that show that will play out in a very similar feel to that show, minus some of the cheesier elements with your Chloe and the techno babble, which I'm sure is to come, but has not happened yet. We have an overarching mystery here with our Lex Luthor. I don't know if it's that much of a mystery. We kind of get it. Okay, he's Luthor. He said he was from a different world. This isn't really much of a mystery to us, but it really will be on Clark, Superman, to figure out the mystery of this. There's also a lot of mystery going on with Morgan Edge, which, spoilers, if you are a comic book, cartoon, movie fan, whatever, you've seen Morgan Edge has popped up in numerous things. He's basically a villain. So he is works with Inner Gang with close ties to Darkseid in many incarnations where, you know, he's going to be basically a billionaire gangster, similar to a Lex Luthor in that he's not a superpowered being and he hates Superman, but his goals and ambitions tend to be much bigger than just going after Superman. He's just all about getting power for himself. I think we're going to see a lot of that played out. The last time we saw Morgan Edge in any live action would have been played by Rutger Hauer in early season 2 of Smallville. It was a very small part that only played out over a few episodes, and that character was never to be heard from again. So let's go over our main cast of characters. So first we got Superman and Clark Kent. Now for this character, when I look at this Tyler Hoechlin, I did not see Superman. Even when he was in Supergirl, he doesn't look like Superman to me. He's kind of shorter, he is well built, but he just doesn't scream Superman the way that Henry Cavill does, the way Christopher Reeves does. He's more in line with probably your Dean Cain. He didn't really look like Superman, but he felt like Superman when you saw him play the part. And by the end of the hour, that's very much where I was with this person as a character, is that he felt like Superman. Something that's been missing, especially Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, is the heart of Superman. So I think they got that right. This is how you make a Superman show interesting. It's not about him as a character of Superman. It's him and his vulnerabilities as Clark Kent, which is why Smallville worked great for so many people, even though there was many that were upset we never saw him in the flights and tights section, except for the little bit at the end. This is a story about Clark Kent and being Superman and balancing his life. All right, so next up we got Lois Lane. Lois Lane, the love interest, the love of his life, the intrepid reporter. We get all of that here. The character, for me, I think it's more so the actress. She's got kind of a weird face. I mean, just very skinny in the jawline. reminds me a lot of Alanis Morissette, but she feels like Lois Lane. She gives all the right beats. She's suspicious, she's looking into things, she's got contacts, she's trying to expose the story, and you really feel the genuine connection with Lois and Clark and the love of their children. As a couple that's been married for 15 plus years, you don't necessarily feel the hot, steamy romance between them, but you feel a deep connection between the characters that is instantly recognizable as going above chemistry, in my opinion. All right, next up we got our sons. We got Jonathan, which is obviously named after Clark's father, Jonathan, who has passed away in the opening monologue of the show. And then we have Jordan, who is the twin. Now, I haven't read comics regularly for many, many years, but I do know from doing some research that Jonathan Kent is now basically Superboy, growing into a Superman of his own. So the fact that the writers chose to change that up and first off make them twins, but second give him the one with not the powers, was definitely an interesting change up here. Now, we did see him as a young child throw that football through and shred that rope. I don't know how strong that rope was. I would imagine that as time goes on, we're going to see some stuff develop with him. There's no way they're going to have two super boys on here potentially, and nobody has powers out of it. Only one has powers out of the two. I think at some point they will, but just based on the pilot alone, I think they've done that well. He's happy, he's confident with who he is. Things have always come easy for him. He's the popular one, he's the athlete, and he initially had some doubts about whether or not his athletic talent could be because of his super blood or just his talent. And by the end of the episode, it seems like he's come into acceptance of the fact that he is who he is, and he's proud of who he is. Jordan, on the other hand, I hope that the writers don't just completely write his social anxieties under the rug because he now knows of his heritage. I think that will have played a lot into him. I think he is a very interesting character, and they chose not to go over the top. He could have been very over the top, very outbursty, very angsty, and he really just felt like kind of a confused kid that didn't know his place in the world, and he has started to accept that now that he knows what has been happening in his life. He's got answers to questions that he didn't have. We don't know if this was the first time he had shown any abilities, because he seems to have been questioning his own existence for some time. It's very relatable to the teenage mindset, and as a father of 3 teenagers and then one on the way, I can really relate to this and the social anxieties and the things that kids go through and the need to fit in and the need to be different and all of that. And it really encompasses well in these 2 children so far. I would say that Jordan, out of the 2, seems to be the stronger actor, but I think both of these characters will grow into their roles quite well as the series progresses. Remember, these are young, these are teenagers, this is their first big roles. They'll take some time to adjust, just as Tom Welling took some time to adjust as Clark Kent in the show, and then by the series run, you had no problem believing that this was the one-day Superman. Then we have Sarah Cushing, who is Lana Cushing's now daughter. She's shown to have some issues of her own. She overdosed on some pills. She's trying to keep her life in order, but she's a young teenager going through hormones. Her boyfriend came a little out of nowhere. I did not see that coming. Her and Jordan have a heartfelt talk about what it is to deal with social issues and depression and stuff like that. And Jordan kind of jumps the gun a little bit, plants a kiss on her, and that's where the drama ensues. I do like where this character is going so far. I think they have this set up very similar to the Lana Lang and Clark teen angst that they had in Smallville, and hopefully this doesn't go on too long, because that did tend to drag out a little bit in Smallville. But I do like her. She talks about how the town is different. Smallville's not the way you remember it. It's not the heartland, the small hometown with the great values. We have issues with homes being set up with meth labs and catching fire and children that may or may not have made it out, and just sadness. Then we have the character of Lana Lang, who's shown up in many, many different things. And I think she brings, something new to the role. This Lana Lang is a lost love or a, childhood sweetheart of Clark's. Maybe she has feelings for him, maybe she doesn't. Clearly, her husband has some jealousy issues, because the younger daughter mentioned that he caught her on his Facebook page, and she wasn't happy about that. So I think maybe she's still secretly pining for Clark, and when you can see the look on her face when she finds out that Lois and Clark will be moving back to Smallville, that it looks like that might be hard for her to deal with having him so close to home. Her husband, on the other hand, so far they're trying to make him a multi-layered character. We'll see if this plays out. This is where you get your political area, and I don't want to get into politics on this channel or in this discussion, but there's definitely some clear parallels to the real world and what's going on in here with Morgan Edge and stuff, and the mindset and the polarization we have in politics. So far this Mr. Cushing here seems to be kind of a jerk. He's at Clark's funeral being straight up rude to him about leaving and not coming back and not bringing his talents home. You know, he's there, he's the fire chief, he deals with lots of stuff, and he looks down on everybody because he thinks they look down on him. So I think there's a lot of misunderstandings here. I think maybe there's a lot of opportunity for character growth, but there's also wide open possibilities that this is not a happy marriage, that this is a potentially abusive, maybe not physically, but verbally abusive relationship between Lana and her husband. I don't think that that's played out yet, and I don't think we've seen enough. But this guy does not seem like a nice guy. He's supposed to be the local villain, but not quite villain at the same point because he's a firefighter. He's there for Clark's kids and all of the other kids when the fire explodes. Clark thanks him, he gives him the little nod, and you can see there's more to this character than meets the eye. He's not just a one-note villain, if that's what he turns out to be. And then as far as other main characters go, I think we have to skip on to our villain. So, Crisis on Infinite Earths happened. We have this Lex Luthor, or Captain Luthor as they've referred to him as so far. Who is he? Well, clearly, I think it's pretty obvious. He is Lex Luthor from an alternate reality that was wiped out in the Crisis on Infinite Earths, or was not back, because the characters in those shows tend to think that those Earths are gone, but we saw in the ending montage that Oliver Queen, as the Spectre, was able to restore them. Whether he restored them all or not is to be seen. If you look at the series as large, you know, Supergirl and The Flash and Arrow all exist on the same reality now, but Earth 3 is gone and replaced with just Earth Prime. So some realities were combined and some were not. Let's talk about special effects. Special effects, I think this show was on point. This felt very cinematic. It was shot super well. This thing had nods to every single thing Superman related that I've ever seen. First thing that you really get is when Superman flies in and he has, you know, the old Fleischer costume from back in the 1930s, and he's lowering the PT Cruiser. It comes right off the comic book page. When the Captain Luthor and Superman are fighting, you get various nods to Man of Steel, and with the fight in the city and the shots that are shown, as well as Superman when he flies back over and flies over the Earth, very reminiscent of both Superman Returns and Superman the movie, when Superman famously flies over the Earth to wink at the camera. There's also these shots when in the very beginning of the show when he's saving the nuclear reactor and he flies over and he freezes the lake or the ocean or whatever that was supposed to be, and he brings it and he drops it back in. You get references directly to Superman 3 with him helping to put out the fire, and also some Superman 4, and then you also get a very, very visible shot reference to Superman Returns when he lifts the giant iceberg over his head versus Superman rising out of the water and lifting the kryptonite continent over his head. All done without the wink to the camera that this is a nod. This is stuff that's there for us as fans that have seen all this material and know what we're expecting and know what they're referencing without being so tongue-in-cheek about it. I think of Rogue One when the guys from the cantina show up and he's like, "Hey, I'm wanted in 12 systems." Okay, all right, we know who that guy is. A little funny. Or C-3PO and R2-D2 show up and they go, "Oh, they're going to Scarab." You're like, okay, yeah, wink, wink, you guys are here too. But it never felt like that for me. It felt natural for the story, and it showed like paying homage to what's come before, but yet setting the ground for what's to come next. All right, so what's my final verdict on this show? So Superman is a hard character to get right. They have not been able to do it in any medium for everybody at any time. You know, everybody beloved Christopher Reeves movies now, but the last two were basically considered failures all around. There's not many redeeming qualities out of them. Superman 3 has some, but Superman 4, very, very few moments, if any. So this feels like Clark Kent. This feels like Superman. This has the heart of Superman. This is how you make him relatable. You don't make Superman dark like they tried to do with Man of Steel. You don't do show but not tell, or tell but not show, as I feel Zack Snyder tried to do in Man of Steel. This is a Superman that I believe does not kill people. I believe this Superman cares deeply and can be affected by his family and his friends, and will wear his heart on his sleeve to do the right thing. This is like your Smallville Superman in that respect. This is a very relatable Superman where his problems are going to be what drives the story. When he has that Superman S shield on and the costume, he's got the answers now. He knows what to do. He knows how to save the day. But when it's Clark Kent is when he's a vulnerable man. And that is what makes the character interesting, is the choices that he makes. You don't put Superman in a scenario where he has to murder someone as he did in Man of Steel. You put him in a situation where he finds his way out, where he overcomes the challenges and he does the right thing. That's what Superman does. That's who he is. I think this is a very solid showing for a pilot. Pilots tend to be where shows can try to hit the ground running. There's some bumps to iron out, but I think that this show is a solid 9 out of 10. If I would give any room for improvement, I would say maybe the children actors could up their game a little bit, specifically Jonathan. I don't feel that he's on the level as the rest of the cast. I think the storyline's done too well, and I'd like to see him not poke the bear a little bit too much in the references to Lana's husband and the contrasting things about politics. I'd like to see that stay out, but it was done very minor. I think the special effects were on point. I think the storyline was tight. I think that the moments were intriguing, and I cannot wait to see more. This right now ranks as my #1 favorite show out of the entire Arrowverse. I still have a couple that I've not seen at all. I've not seen Stargirl, I've not seen Black Lightning, but out of the ones I have seen, and I loved Arrow and I loved The Flash, I think that this tops them all. I'd say what they put together was a better movie than Man of Steel and a better movie than Superman Returns. It did everything that Superman Returns tried to do in telling a Superman story where we're talking about Clark as being a father and the issues that you go through to try to balance life, but I think it did it so much better. It also took the spectacle that was Man of Steel and has toned that down in a way that isn't just too much, because that was a big complaint Man of Steel received, that it was just action, 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 fight, 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 and there was no heart, no time to breathe, too much destruction. You saw this Superman go into the city, crash into a building, recognize his surroundings, and immediately fly out and take this danger away from the people. And that's who Superman is, not reacting, but being proactive at what he needs to do. I think that there's a lot that can play out here, and so far it doesn't look like it's going to fall into the tropes that Smallville had, where we're dealing with Freak of the Week type episodes, because at least at this point, kryptonite has not shown to have any effect on humans. So I think this is going to be something new, totally on its own, and hopefully fresh, and I can't wait to see more. If you guys like this video, please drop a thumbs up, subscribe down below for more content. If there's anything you'd like me to see me review or cover or give my thoughts on, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to check it out. If I haven't already, I will check it out. This is not going to be a channel where you see me do reaction views. I'm not probably the most fun person to watch when it comes to reactions. I tend to be very dead set focused. I don't like a lot of talking, so you're not going to hear a lot of commentary from me. But I do have a lot to say after the fact. Hopefully you find it interesting. If not, sorry. Please consider checking out this channel again. Again, thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.